Okay, seem to be live again. See if we're live on YouTube this time. Okay. I don't know what I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna have to figure out. Maybe the OBS plugin or whatever that I use to multi-stream doesn't work well with scheduling a stream on YouTube. That's my best guess for why that didn't work. Probably have to figure that out because it's probably nice to schedule it, right? I'm like I'm worried now that people are like in that. It said 7 people were waiting in the scheduled stream. I hope they're not just gonna like wait forever. Anyway, what am I doing? I'm going on Twitter and I'm trying to find this Ziad tweet. What am I trying to say here? Hello, Jack. Saw how much everyone bullied Ziad over this and decided to invite that on myself. I've now. That is that all I need to say? I guess so. Howdy, Caitlin. Howdy, Misa. Okay. I don't know why it is still so hard to just like do basic. I just hate software. Sorry. I'm gonna stop complaining about that. Yeah. Oh yeah. I saw Blader's version of this. Okay. We will. Honestly, I did not. Okay. So let me just let me just say. One reason why I'm doing this is because it's easy and lazy to do this right now. And it's this is not a complaint, right? I'm very privileged to be able to do what I'm doing right now, but like when you're trying to be a good game critic, you have to like actually play games, right? Like you have to when games come out and are interesting, like you have to be excited about games. You have to be like you have to appreciate games. You have to want to play games, right? And like so many games have come out this year and especially in the past like week that I am very excited about. And yeah, I've been playing EmuROM. Let me just pull it. Been playing this especially, and this is a banger. I was not expecting this to be the one that really grabbed me. It's kind of I mean I haven't played Animal Well, but I think Caitlin described it as Animal Well for sickos. And that's exactly. I mean, that's I don't again I haven't played Animal well, but I'm pretty confident that that's true. Yeah, if you like adventure games in the way that I mean it and the way that I do, like, you know, if you like playing a game and like getting into a world where interesting weird stuff is happening and you don't just feel like, I haven't seen whatever that is. That's insane. Okay. I've played the game for like 16 hours and I have seen a lot of crazy stuff, but there's clearly still so much left. But yeah, like a game that has layers of secrets and unravels, and you know, like the last game that made me feel like this is Tunic. But I feel like, but you know, a part of what I'm talking about is like these games feel like an adventure because they are distinct, right? Like I'm also like I also started Mina the Hollower. That game like doesn't really feel like an adventure to me in the same sense. Like it's just a little too predictable. It's just a little bit too, yeah, it just reads as a game. It reads as a designed thing because I've played so many other games that it's drawing inspiration from and doing more or less the same types of stuff with regard to the exploration and secrets and stuff, world design, all that. Even the basic mechanics, like everything about the game is just a little bit too familiar to feel like that. But Emurom Emurom is a very, very, very strange game in a lot of ways, and it just keeps keeps feeling more and more strange as you get deeper into it. So yeah, really excited about this right now. And anyway, so I've been playing that way too much to and just busy with life things also. But yeah, I didn't put together any like high effort stream this week, so we're gonna do the lazy thing. But also it's interesting, right? Like it's a good topic. I watched, so I stole all this from ziadbruh. If you don't know of him, he's another like game critic on YouTube and maybe elsewhere. Go subscribe to him. I enjoy watching his stuff. You know, we have pretty different tastes, it seems like, and pretty different takes and all that, but I enjoy watching his stuff a lot more than, you know, most game critics. I'll say that at least. And yeah. So go. I encourage you to subscribe to him. But also, but yeah, I watched some of his stream of doing this tier list, and I think, you know, even though some of this is going to be like not really like if I were to make this myself, I would pick different things, but it'll still be really interesting to talk about this stuff, I think. But yeah, I guess I didn't have anything else to say about the Blader thing. Yeah, Blader puts, I think Blader's like top tier was arcade design and then just a picture of himself or his profile picture. How's it going, River? How's it going, Paul Allen? Have I seen Moveventure? What is that? Challenging precision platformer. 100 moves, 2 buttons, 0 tutorials. A move-like adventure. Is this tower climb? Looks interesting. This is pretty new, huh? I haven't heard about this. Is this a known developer? Oh, Reventure, right. I've heard of this. I didn't hear anything positive enough about it from my trusted confidants. What is it? Was it again? 100 different endings? This is like a RPG choice slop. What is it? Oh no, this is, wait, what? At sample name jealous? Wait, what? I don't have a sample name message on my... Oh, sample name is jealous about something? I thought you were saying sample. I thought you were replying to sample name. Wait, wait, did I miss a message or no? Okay, I have no idea what any of this is, but this looks like it could be interesting. Yeah, my chat thing must be broken, dude. Okay, yeah, I'll look into New Venture later, I guess. But yeah, Emmy Rom, play this game. Wow, Stalker, thank you, thank you for the raid. This is gonna be the most viewers I've had here since I started doing the, or since I stopped speedrunning. How's everybody doing? We're just hanging out and talking about video games and game design and stuff. I'm gonna be doing this in just a minute. I'm gonna be doing this, which I stole from Ziad on YouTube. Yeah, basically just he came up with a list. I think he came up with a list of you know, trends in game design, which some of which I will maybe take issue with as calling them trends, but that'll all be part of it, and we're gonna rank them. But I was also first I was recommending this game. Have you seen this game, Stalker? I don't know if this would interest you or not, but I think I'm completely captivated by it right now. It's so good. That Star Fox remake. I don't know what's going on with that. I haven't really like looked closely at it. It's one of those games with secrets, that's for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, Metroid Brainia is what they're calling it a Metroid Brainia. I will not call it that myself. Cuz I'm not a stupid genre names type of guy, but yeah, the tier list was made by an extremely action-pilled type of guy, so of course it's extremely action-pilled. I mean, I've watched Ziad enough to know that he likes stuff that's not just action. Like, you know, he has a. I see a lot of like the new arcade crowd in his chat, but I don't know. I think I've heard him talk about like, you know, I've heard him talk about like a lot of the arcade games that I like Crazy Taxi and, you know, Tetris Grandmaster and stuff like that, but I think he also likes I don't know, like Shadow of the Colossus and stuff like that, you know, like I guess a lot of arcade people kind of respect Shadow of the Colossus, but yeah, I think he's like a little bit more open-minded than someone like Blader. No offense to Blader. Yeah, have you seen the I don't know if I can find it, but have you seen the image that I think Boghog, the creator of Caramel Action, made the image? I don't know if it's gonna come up. Probably not. Oh, here we go. How it feels to play Outer Wilds. I'm not gonna read it out. You guys can just yeah. It's, you know, I love these games, but actually, you know what? I was gonna. I mean, I was gonna, you know, partially take issue with the image, but I may or may not look like this and talk like this and have these thoughts going through my head when I play these games. Yeah, I mean, you know, Caitlin and I were talking about in the Discord before EmuROM came out that like, God, I hope this is not like a, you know, like a what do you call the straight cipher? You know, the just the 1-to-1 cipher for decoding. Yeah, the substitution cipher. Thanks. I don't know, like so many of these. I guess my thing with the conlang deciphering elements is that I groan when I see it because it's such a high effort thing to ask me to do, right? To like decipher a language, and usually it's like deep enough into the game. Like you have to peel back multiple layers of the game before you even think about doing that. So it's not like it's stopping people from enjoying the game at all. But like when I see that, I think, okay, this is going to be a very high effort thing. And do I trust this designer to make it actually new and interesting? Because I don't want to do the same like substitution cipher thing that I've done a bunch of times before. But I think I've just been surprised over and over again at how much depth there is in the conlang deciphering thing. Like not depth, but like variety. Like there's a big design space there. Like the way that it works in Tunic is very different from the way that it works in EmuROM. And the more I think about it, the more I feel like you can probably do a lot of different stuff with it. And like there's a little bit of it in 7 Days to End With You, which people don't know about this game. Sample Name, shout out Sample Name, recommended this to me. This, it's different. It's like a very simple story game, but like every word is in a different language, right? And you have to figure out the words from context. But there's a little bit of so it's not, this isn't really conlang deciphering exactly, but like I don't know, it's in the same space, and it does kind of get into that at one point depending on how you approach certain things. I don't know, it's hard not to spoil, but yeah, it's interesting what this game does with it relative to those other games. Like yeah, I would just, I think it's easy to dismiss this type of game, and especially the conlang part, as like, bro, like that's just autistic whatever. Like that's not actually fun. But it is in fact fun, in my opinion, in at least Tunic and EmuROM, although I haven't fully cracked it in EmuROM so far. Boghog will always be the creator of Caramel Action to me, won't he? I mean, he's not just that, right? He's not just that, because I've been like subscribed to his Patreon. Like I've enjoyed and gotten stuff out of his writing for a while. But you know, I think the most notable thing that he's done is Caramel Action. Maybe that's not what's most notable to most people, but you know, Syncopause is not the most notable Michael Bro game to most people either. So did I miss anything? Oh yeah, try to make the tiers the same as they were in the OG tier lists: positive influence, harmless, mixed bag, and actively bad. So I changed that on purpose, okay? So for this game design trends tier list, I changed it on purpose because that just doesn't make sense to me, right? So like positive influence, harmless, mixed bag, and actively bad, like that's not like a tier. Those aren't like, you can't compare harmless and mixed bag. Like harmless and mixed bag are like equivalent. Those are both like neutral, right? Like I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think it makes more sense to is the video desynced from the audio? Oh man. I added this noise cancellation thing. So that's probably true. It's probably true. Maybe I can switch back. I wonder if I can switch back right now to my regular mic and just not have the noise canceling. Okay, I'm back on my regular mic now. You might be able to hear some air conditioning or something. Better or worse? Or the same? Better or worse? Or the same? Do hear the AC. I don't know which one's worse. Better but still desynced? Okay, well, no, I don't want you to turn off the AC. I mean, I can turn it off if I want to, but I'm gonna sweat by the end of this if we turn off the AC. So I don't know. I'm doesn't seem desynced. Fix the desync. Okay. I think we're just gonna live with the AC, unless if someone wants to say that it's like, you know, hurting their ears or whatever. Desync seems worse. Just put on some BGM. I'm philosophically opposed to BGM on streams. It's a concession to the to the TikTok brained youth that need stimulation. No, I actually, my actual reasoning would be more that I don't know where to find BGM that is good and not going to get me copyright whatevered. We got too much chat, man. Am I ever gonna get to this? Am I ever gonna get to this thing? Anyway, I think I covered my thoughts on Metroidvanias. Great genre. You know, it's like Metroidvanias if they required a brain. That's cool. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's almost like the brain thing is almost like a distraction from the fact that like a Metroidvania is like such a specific thing. Like it almost feels like you're playing the same game every time. a lot of them, right? I don't know. I don't want to criticize the genre based on like its average example, right? Based on like the average game in that genre. Like I want to criticize it based on the best games in that genre. But even the best games that are like that you'd consider a Metroidvania, like a standard Metroidvania, are pretty similar to each other and feel pretty rote to me. Whereas like, you know, Tunic, Outer Wilds, even Fez, which I'm not a big fan of, like even Fez, you know, Emuram, these games are just unique games. Like they're just completely different from each other. That to me is what is interesting about Metroidvanias. Yeah. I've seen people calling the Witness a Metroidvania. I don't know about that, but that's certainly another super unique game. Yeah, I haven't. Chance of Sinar, is that the one that I tried? I think I'm mixing it up with something else now. I have this on my wish list. What's that other language game where you're a like dude in a cloak or something? No, you're like Heaven Vault? Heavenly Vault or something? Heaven's Vault. I tried this game. This is also like a Conlang game, I guess. I thought this was doo-doo poo-poo, I'm sorry. This, I don't know, I only got like an hour or two in, but it felt pretty nothing. It felt like nothing. I think, I got the impression from someone who was like talking about it positively. Maybe it was like Stephen Lavelle on Twitter like forever ago. I could be completely wrong about that, but I got the impression that like the post game, like you go through the whole game once and it's like a nothing game, and then it's like 20 hours or something, and then you go back and actually like have to decipher the language in the post game or something. I don't know. That did not sound like my jam. They all seem to be based on Castlevania. I kind of thought it was the opposite. I kind of thought they were all based on Metroid. Super Puzzle Cat OST. All right, you know what? If I can find that easily. How do I get the volume right for this? Is this blowing you guys' ears out? It's definitely too loud, but it's probably not blowing you guys' ears out. Is this actually going to be good background music? I think this might be a bit much. now that I think about it. Also, I don't have like the audio ducking set up and everything. No, fuck this. Sorry. Sorry. No, the TikTok brained among us. You are dismissed. You can go ahead and you can go ahead and head somewhere else. Okay, let's get into it. Let's get into it. I don't know how long this is gonna take us to close all this crap. Play Emuram though. This game's awesome. If you like stuff like Tunic, figuring out crazy secrets and stuff, exploring weird worlds. Hell yeah. So good. Maybe I should just end the stream right now and play Emurom. Okay. So, game design trends. Okay. I don't really know. I feel like this is already gonna make. I feel like whatever way I'm going to settle on thinking about this is going to like make my tier list like incommensurate. Is that the word? Like out of proportion. Well, like my tier list will not be able to be compared against Ziads and Bladers and whatever, because I'm not even like interpreting this the same way. Like I feel like, you know, like obviously I could rate these trends based on just like, are they making for better games for my taste like right now? Or I could rate them as like long term, like do I think they're benefiting the medium or something like that? And I feel like those are kind of different. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go. Let's just try it. Okay, 3 pick 1. Okay, so we're talking about like roguelite, popularized by roguelites. I don't know who originally did this, but you know, you got an upgrade screen pops up, or a whatever, like, you know, you're picking an item or picking a whatever upgrade, and you've got 3 choices and you have to pick one of them. Now, I am fully aware that everyone hates this, but I think it's kind of become a meme a little bit to hate it. I do understand why people hate it, because most of the games that it appears in are like normie slop roguelites. Like I'm not a big fan of Hades. I'm not a big fan of I don't even know what else has this. Like Dead Cells probably. Actually, Dead Cells I think has a different system. I don't know, but I recognize that a lot of slop games have this, and that it's not well considered in those games, right? Like it often just is completely disconnected from the rest of the gameplay systems. So like you finish a level, and like in between levels it pops up, and you are making this choice, and it just doesn't like affect anything else. It's an easy thing to slot into like any kind of game that it's easy, right? Like it's an easy design decision, and that's why people hate it, because it feels lazy. It gives an impression of laziness when you're looking at a game, right? And it has 3 pick 1, and I get that, but some of my favorite games of all time have, well, okay, like Post Void is one of my favorite games of all time, which if you want to understand why, you can watch the previous stream, or you can read my essay. Post Void is deeper than you think, much deeper than you think, or whatever I called it. But Post Void has this basically exactly the same as other roguelikes, and while it's not my favorite thing, and I would prefer something that's like more tightly integrated into the rest of the gameplay systems, I don't think it really hurts the game either. I think it mostly works fine. Yeah, like when I'm playing the game, I don't really feel like it affects my experience, and I wonder if everyone else who like memes on this 3 pick 1 thing all the time, if they had a game that they liked everything else about it, if they had an example to point to and think about where they liked everything else about it, but it also had 3 pick 1, like would they really hate on this in the same way? And I guess everyone likes Downwell, right? And it has the exact same thing. So yeah, I feel like if we're being honest, like this is not this is not like a big problem. Like we can't put this in F tier, right? And the other thing I was going to say is my absolute favorite game of all time, Syncopaws, has 2 pick 1, right? Which I do think is better, and so we can't really lump that in as the same thing. Because like part of the problem of 3 pick 1, right, is just that it gives you too much choice. Like, you know, if you think back to something like Binding of Isaac, most of the time in Binding of Isaac, you're either picking the item, you're either taking the item you're given or you're not. At least like, you know, early on in the game. And like as you get deeper into the game, you get more stuff like the D6 and whatever that lets you like re-roll items or like choose, you know, get more options and stuff like that. Even when you get more options, like you're not getting more than 2 choices on average probably, right? So like that to me feels much more like, you know, you're just going to have to work with something that you don't really want to work with more often, which usually is good for these kinds of games. I think the reason 3 works well enough for Post Void, I don't know. Again, I already said that I think Post Void would be better. Even Post Void would be better without a 3-pick 1 probably. So I'm not going to try to defend it in that, but yeah, it's just not that big a deal. I think at the end of the day. But yeah, what I was trying to say. Sorry, got off track. What I was trying to say about Syncopause is, in Syncopause, it is a lot better than the standard 3-pick 1 because 1, it's 2-pick 1, and so you just have to live with stuff more often. You get more variety from run to run because you're forced to live with, you know, suboptimal stuff that is not your ideal more often. And also, like, every item in that game is actually just well designed, so that also makes it different from every like roguelite. But the other thing about Syncopause is it's a little bit more integrated into the gameplay. Like, it's not just in between levels in Syncopause this thing pops up, you know, pick one of 2, and it doesn't really have an effect on everything. There are ways. It's not like a core gameplay system, right? But like it's not super relevant that often. But there are cases where, you know, you want to go out of your way to do a certain thing earlier to make this 2-pick 1 thing pop up sooner than it would otherwise, or actually later than it would otherwise. Like, I can't explain these things without spoiling the game, but like the fact that it can happen anywhere mid gameplay, and it matters exactly when it happens sometimes, like, that makes it a lot better. So yeah, I guess the question is, am I counting stuff like that? I guess I'm just thinking of this as a general concept, like 3-pick 1. But what we're not thinking about 2, we're thinking of specifically 3. I don't know. I feel like I have to put it like mid tier, right? Like, it is like a design shortcut, but I think it's, yeah, it's not something that I want to see designers like just defaulting to without thinking about it. But I don't really think it's actively hard. I would maybe even put it B tier. Like, I don't know. We'll see how everything else shakes out. We'll put it C tier for now. We'll put it C tier. Eugenics also has 2-pick 1. That's nice. Yeah, 2-pick 1 I think is like significantly better. The best perk in Downwell is the one that makes the game a 2-pick 1. I completely forgot about that, actually. I'm still struggling to remember exactly how that works, but that's cool. Okay. All right, yeah. That can be C. AAA wide linear Skilltree slop. It's a good concept. That's a good trend. I mean, is this really trending anymore? I don't actually play AAA games really. What are the last AAA games I've played? Like, I tried High Guard. Is that a AAA game? Maybe not. I played The Last of Us Part 2. I played Returnal. Is that even AAA? I don't know. But yeah, these games didn't have that. The AAA games that I've played in the last like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years even haven't had that. But I do try to pick the more interesting and unique AAA games to play. So yeah, I question whether this is like actually trending right now, but I don't like it. I mean, if it has the word slop in it, can we just go ahead and do that? Should we address all the slop right now? Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling to find anything positive to say about this. But I also just don't play these kinds of games, so I don't know. I wouldn't know. Oh, Friendslop. Friendslop is a different thing. It has embraced slop, right? You know, it has embraced that as part of its identity in a positive way. So, okay, Cooldown Slop. Cooldown, this is so stupid. Cooldown Slop. Again, I don't really play games like this. Like, is Crimson Desert like that, maybe? What is this, Xenoblade or something? I mean, the last game I played that you would consider Cooldown Slop is maybe like World of Warcraft. And I think at its best in World of Warcraft, like high level PvP and like, okay, Dota 2, right? You know what? I actually saw someone. I think I saw someone in Ziad's comment section who wrote a really thoughtful comment about Dota 2 and like a defense of. Yeah, they must have been talking about this because I think they were talking about the cooldowns in Dota 2. I didn't read it super closely, but yeah, I think in Dota 2 it works, and even to a lesser extent in something like WoW. Like WoW raids. Think about like WoW raids, right? Like it works at least a lot better than maybe in something like Xenoblade or something. I don't know, but it works well enough because it's one thing. Like those games are challenging in that you just have to manage your attention. That's like the main challenge, right? And so to have this kind of background process that you can pay a little bit more attention to, like to perfectly manage your like damage rotation or whatever, to like I'm thinking about World of Warcraft right now. Like you have like a pretty simple like flow chart of what depends on the class and build and whatever, but you have a pretty simple flow chart of like what abilities you want to use in what order, and there's cooldowns that prevent you from just doing the most damage abilities at any given time, and there's like, you know, you have to build up like tokens by using this one ability and then use this other ability. And it's like a fairly simple flowchart that like by itself would be a nothing game to me. But the fact that you have that as this one layer, and then you have like these fairly complicated boss patterns and like, you know, cooperative like coordination that you have with the rest of your raid group. And you also have like, yeah, you have, there's other things to think about, right? You know, where exactly you're positioned relative to what's happening in the boss fight right now, like when certain attacks are going to happen, but also like where you're positioned relative to like your healers, where you're positioned relative to like everyone else. Like sometimes you have to have like 5 people stack in this one spot and then 5 people stack in this other. Like just you're just doing all this crazy coordination stuff, right? In a WoW raid, at their best, and to have this base layer beneath all of that like rewards you when you can give it a little bit more attention. You can kind of do it mindlessly while you're doing other stuff, and you're rewarded for doing it mindlessly well enough. But you're more rewarded when you can pay full attention to it and do it that little bit better, right? So it's this layer that absorbs more attention when not as much is happening in the other elements, the boss fight, the coordination, the boss attacks, the coordination type of stuff. That's kind of more so the point of the game. Does that make sense? So I feel like if this is trying to say like every game that's like cooldown centric combat, then I kind of disagree that should be called slop. But and I guess I should talk about Dota 2 as well. Like in Dota 2, it's not that same type of rotation kind of thing. I mean, some heroes actually are like that. You have like a rotation of abilities to like do damage and whatever, but it's more so like, but it's still this thing where it's the cooldowns, the core combat abilities are just one relatively small like component, one layer of a pretty complicated game. Like Dota 2 there is way more stuff in Dota 2 than in WoW, for example, that like is trying to absorb your attention all the time. Like, you know, you want to be last hitting as well as possible. You want to be spacing with whoever else is in your lane. You want to be like, you know, managing the creep, like blocking the creep waves or pulling the creep waves. You want to be like farming the stacks or like stacking the camps or like, You want to be like thinking about whether you need to rotate. You want to be paying attention to everything else that's happening on the map. You want to be paying attention to what your teammates and what your opponents are like building, and you want to be like thinking about how to counter those builds. There's just like an insane amount of stuff to think about in that game. You can play that game for thousands of hours and still feel completely overwhelmed all the time, right? And so yeah, the fact that the combat, or the fact that like the abilities are not something that you're just using all the time, there's something on longer cooldowns. Like I don't think it's like a problem with the game. It might even be something that makes sense. And like some of the really long cooldown spells in that game, like they're dictating the flow of the game in a major way. You know, like Enigma's Black Hole has like a 3 or 4 minute cooldown, and like, you know, that encourages you to like strategize with your entire team around that to try to make a team fight happen when like every time that's off cooldown. And yeah, it's something that integrates well with the rest of the game in that case, I think. But I don't know if that's what we're talking about here, because I probably don't play any of the games that he was thinking of when he made this. Cooldown Slop is Doom Eternal. Okay, now that's okay. I like Cooldown Slop. I mean, I don't love Doom Eternal, right? But I like it a lot more than every other Doom game, to be honest with you. I respect Doom 1 and 2 for the time, but you know, I like Doom Eternal. Let's just compare it to the ones that are more comparable, like Doom 2016. Like I like Doom Eternal a lot more than Doom 2016. Yeah, I do think it's. I don't think it's the most interesting kind of combat, but I do think there's something that you see in people who like only play action games, or like mostly play action games and don't really play a lot of good like turn-based strategy games and stuff, where they think that action should be so much about strategy. It should be more about strategy than I think it should be. Or like it has to be about strategy, right? Like it has to be deeply strategic and have these like trade-offs all the time and stuff like that. Like I don't really think that's true. Like I enjoy action games when it's just like a challenge to process all of this and, you know, get into the headspace and understand what's going on enough to keep up, you know? I enjoy action games like that. Doom Eternal is like a little bit more like that. You know, it kind of has the same vibe as, or the same appeal as World of Warcraft in a very different way, like as with the part of World of Warcraft that I was just talking about, right? Where it's got this, you know, if you just had to stand still and optimally, you know, deal as much damage as possible to a single unmoving, unthreatening target, you would figure out a way of doing that that's pretty simple, and the game would be reduced to nothing and there wouldn't be any strategy to it. But the fact that you have to pay attention to all these different things, you have to pay attention to what all the enemies are doing, how they're moving, how they're positioning, you have to kind of route your way through the level in a somewhat dynamic way, and do all that while you're also trying to, like, you know, get the right weapon for each use the right weapon at the right time all the time, and manage all these think about all the different cooldowns and use all your different abilities as often as possible. Like, it's not my favorite shooter ever by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's overcomplicated. I think these games that just have a lot of different cooldowns and make you manage all of that, like it can be a little bit of a pain to learn, would be my main complaint against it. But yeah, I don't know, it's fine. I enjoyed Doom Eternal. I don't know. Again, is it a trend? I guess I'm not gonna try to rate anything based on whether it is actually a trend at all. Yeah, I was thinking, like, you know, Doom Eternal only has the cooldown on grenades. I was trying to think of what else actually has like literal cooldowns in Doom Eternal, but you can kind of think of the ammo as cooldowns, maybe. I don't know. I do think it fits into the general thing I was talking about, though. So we'll go B. Okay, air juggles. I don't feel like this is a trend in like actual games that I see people talking about, but I'm guessing this is just about the tweets that you see. I'm guessing this is just about the tweets that you see if you're on the part of Twitter that I'm on, where they're just farming engagement because like it's a flashy thing that you can show off about your game. Like I put a crazy combo in my game where I jump up and do a bunch of big crazy animations. I don't know. I mean, air juggles. If we're thinking about air juggles as in terms of like how they actually influence games design, like I don't know, it could be good, could be bad. Like you typically see them in games that are what I would call combo slop. Like you know, are we looking at Devil May Cry right here? um, like a lot of character action games with combos in general, even a lot of fighting games, they seem designed at least to some degree to have this it looks cool type of appeal rather than it plays well or is interesting gameplay wise type of appeal. And I'm really opposed to that. I don't care about my game looking cool on the screen. I want something interesting to happen in my brain when I play the game. Not to say that I don't care at all, but it's completely secondary to whether it's actually an interesting game. Yeah, and just a lot of the games that have air juggles also have like all these different weapon switching, all these really elaborate player movesets that are just too overpowered, right? And that aren't really tuned well with interesting trade-offs between all the different moves. You just get the sense that it wasn't tightly designed in the way that I like for an action game to be. So yeah, I struggle to not put air juggles in F tier just because I associate it with all that. But I think that it could be fine. It could be fine to have a thing where you want to juggle the enemy in the air sometimes, and I'm sure there's fighting games where it makes sense that you can juggle your opponent in the air sometimes, and if it feels cool and is not that much of a negative. Yeah, I don't know. And there are like I'm sure there are cases where, or at least theoretical cases where there are trade-offs to that you have to be thinking about, and it's not just a mindless pressing the buttons thing. So I don't know, I'll put it D tier, I guess, because it could be good. Let's try to catch up on the chat and drink some water. I haven't played Monster Hunter. There's a big Monster Hunter discussion in the Discord yesterday. Made me feel like I missed out. I don't know if I'm ever going to get into that at this point in my life, but maybe. If there's more strategy, then getting into that headspace is even more challenging and interesting, or at least that's how I'd defend it. I think, so this is getting back to what I was saying about how action games don't really have to have strategy to appeal to me. And I mean, yeah, I don't know if I really finished fleshing out that point, but like, it makes sense that if you're not playing deep strategy games, right? If you're not into bro likes or whatever, you're not getting that. You're not getting that from those games like I am. So when you play action games, you just are naturally more hungry for that type of thing if you appreciate it. But so I don't blame people for that, except maybe I would encourage them to play 868 Back, now available on Steam. But yeah, I would say that I do think when you have different types of difficulty in your game at the same time, right? Like when you have to be thinking about strategy to some extent and doing this kind of like info processing difficulty, like there's so much information flying at you, and you have to kind of take it all in and process it effectively and filter that information according to like what is actually relevant right now. Like when that is also a deep well of difficulty in your game, I think you can just go deeper on one of those two things. And I mean, same with any two different categories of like challenge in a game, right? Like when there's action in your game and there's strategy, like you can make a game that's a 10 out of 10, that's amazing, that's like combining those two things, that's action and strategy at the same time, right? But the way that you make a 10 out of 10 combining those two things at the same time is not by going all the way deep on one or the other. It's by doing something that you can only do when you have both of those elements, right? Whereas if you only have one or the other, you can actually go deeper on that one thing, I think. Yeah, I'm not going to try to fully justify that right now. That's maybe a topic for a different video, but yeah. Okay. Getting into Monster Hunter is a syncopause to your time investment. Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of games are like that, you know? Like I played a little bit of Hunt Showdown recently on Gates' recommendation, and it's a super interesting game actually. Like I would love to spend a few hundred hours on that. But like I would love to spend a few hundred hours on a lot of things. So we'll see if it actually happens. I am going to try to actually understand it a little bit more, at least. I don't know about hundreds of hours. Yeah, but yeah, Monster Hunter is one of those things that just comes up often enough that I am tempted to get into it just to understand the discourse sometimes. But yeah, I think I might have just missed the boat. Let's see. Anything else I'm trying to respond to here? Good faith opposition to juggling enemies is that it's only possible for enemies that don't have super dynamic or aggressive behavior. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was thinking about. But like, you know, if you have a bunch of different enemies, you know, you can have one enemy that you're juggling and another enemy. Yeah, you probably realize all this. Okay. Actually, this is a topic, by the way, that I was thinking about making a video or maybe just doing a stream ranting about. Like, where's the line with games like respecting my time or something like that? Like, or like in general, like games have to fit into your life, right? Games have to fit into your life. And what does that really mean? Like, you know, I don't know. It's natural to enjoy different games at different times in your life and stuff like that. But I feel like people don't fully appreciate some of the implications of that, even if they understand it in theory. Anyway, arcade design. I think this actually is a trend. I think the Electric Underground has had a pretty major impact. It's especially a trend, maybe more so than anything else that we've talked about so far. This is actually a trend that influences games that I care about. Like, you know, Sylvie has been talking a ton about shmups recently, and I even saw a skeet, a blue skeet, whatever you call it, from Sam Barlow, I think is his name, about like arcade games and how that influences his thinking. Like he's you wouldn't think that he's the guy who made Her Story and Telling Lies. I forget what the other one is, Immortality or something like that. I haven't played that one, but you know, these are like mystery detective kind of games that are very like minimal on interactivity. Like it's almost at the extreme end of the spectrum where you question how much of it's even a game, right? And yet he's talking about this. Like that's pretty wild to me. It's pretty interesting. But you know, he is making some of the smartest, most interesting games in that genre. So it's not surprising that he cares about video games. But yeah. Anyway, arcade design I do think is a real trend. And I really do appreciate the Electric Underground for. So I disagree with Mark from the Electric Underground on almost every time he opens his mouth. I want to say, I you know, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but like every video I am constantly like, you know, I would say something pretty different here, right? But that's because we have a very different perspective. He likes what he likes. He likes a pretty narrow type of game, and there's a lot of people like that. And although it frustrates me because I want people to play more variety and understand games more broadly, and I think you understand your narrow type of game more. I think you understand your favorite type of game better when you understand all games a little bit more. At least that's my experience. But I do think he's been a really positive influence, and I still watch his videos and stuff, and he still, you know, brings up topics that, you know, get the noggin jogging. But yeah, I think overall it's been a positive influence, even if it has created a culture, the new arcade culture, kind of feels cultish to me at times with how far they go. And yeah, some people just like, you know, it's like their religion. It feels like they're trying to, some people are like posturing themselves as critics. And when you're a critic, I think you have to have a certain disposition toward the truth, a certain orientation toward the truth, right? You're trying to say something that is true about the work, or at least true about your experience playing, you know, experience with the work, right? And if it's, some people have even admitted this outright, but even without the admission, you get the very strong impression from a lot of the arcade bros that like they don't care about the truth as much as they care about spreading their ideas, their idea that games should only be this one specific type of thing. That really annoys me. However, there are a lot of good ideas in arcade design that were missing for many years before it kind of started trending again in recent years. So I feel like I kind of have to put it A tier. Like, yeah, I mean, it's complicated because like arcade design could mean a lot of things. You know, it could mean like quote unquote puzzle, like arcade quote unquote puzzle games, like, you know, Tetris and Puyo Puyo and things like that are a little bit more to my tastes in terms of like the format. Like, you know, it's an infinitely replayable game that's super deep, and also, you know, you can pick it up and play it and have a decent time, but it's also, you know, worthy of serious study and play, and like getting you can master it, and the game gets better and better as you play it more and more and get better at it. But you don't really see people talking about those kind of things as much. Maybe a little bit recently I have, but you mostly see people talking about like shmups and beat 'em ups, I feel like, which are kind of on a different end of the spectrum. Like, you know, I kind of consider like fighting games and quote unquote puzzle, like I call those abstract action games, right? Like, to distinguish them from actual puzzle games like Steven's Sausage Roll or The Witness or something. You know, abstract action games like Tetris, and then like fighting games, those are kind of on one end of the spectrum where I think they've more or less got the format right. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got something like shmups and beat 'em ups where I don't think that the static level design really fits with a game that's supposed to be infinitely replayable like that. You know, the games that I really love that are infinitely replayable have way more randomness, and no, they look more like Tetris or Puyo Puyo in the level of like randomness that you have to deal with. You know, stuff like Single Pause, stuff like Post Void, stuff like Caramel Action is getting there. Although Caramel Action, obviously arcade influenced, Caramel Action does still have the static level designs, and I think I would like the game more if it leaned less on that. You know, if it went even further toward randomness and away from static level designs. So that kind of bothers me about the arcade thing, but there are obviously great principles in arcade design. You know, I love the permadeath and the getting straight to the point. There's a certain way of getting straight to the point, you know, what Mark calls gameplay density. Obviously, I'm in favor of stuff like that. I'm in favor of difficulty. I'm in favor of scoring systems. Like, all of these things are in line with my taste, and I think this is a positive trend overall. I almost want to put it in S tier, despite the fact that people get so annoying about it. Maybe people just get annoying about it because it's really good. I'll leave it an A for now. Maybe we'll bump it up if there's like nothing in S tier or something. Yeah, dogmatic. Yeah, it's just that people just make these like universal claims, right? They don't just say like this is true of this kind of game. They say this is true in general without having played like so many interesting games that are out there. Like if you had played these games deeply and understood them and formed an opinion, that would be one thing, but like that's just clearly not the case. And a lot of people are just kind of posers about arcade design. Like it's just the cool thing right now within a certain group, so they're like talking about all these games that they barely touched or haven't even touched. I don't know. I just see all this crazy poser shit about that. But overall, like there's obviously some people who do deeply appreciate it, and you know, it has encouraged me to go back and play some more arcade games that I hadn't, and like types of games that I hadn't played very much, and you know, they were interesting to think about, even if I don't, you know, even if I don't love stuff like Final Fight personally. It's clearly a well-made game that was interesting at the time, and all this stuff brings up interesting questions. Yeah, not a big fan of the first level or two being too easy with most arcade games. Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, I think within the arcade design like cult or whatever, not necessarily within the cult, within, you know, the arcade design influencers, let's say, I think there is a pretty big, at least with Bog Hog, I've seen Bog Hog trying to push things forward in that way, right? Like he respects the arcade design for the time, but he's also saying like there is no reason to make the early stages just a waiting room for the later stages, right? Like the arcade, the difficulty curve that you see in cave games and stuff like that does not really have a strong reason to exist, and never really has. I would say never really has. I don't think Bog Hog would say that, but yeah. Yeah, that is a big part of the problem. That is a big part of the reason why I don't love very many like arcade games, especially the ones with more static level design. How much this list would differ if I ranked best implementation you've seen versus average implementation? Yeah, I kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier. I don't really want to rank like the average implementation. I'm trying to rank like what I think is the influence of this thing overall. Like, I think that's what I'm doing. I don't know if I ever really settled on that, on what exactly I'm doing here, but, you know, I'm just kind of thinking like, is this a positive influence on games overall? And for me, I don't really care about the average game very much. I don't think the average game matters very much. I mean, you know, popular games do matter. So I do care about what's influencing the popular games, but mostly I'm thinking about what's influencing the best games. If something is influencing the very best games extremely positively and influencing like the popular and like every other game extremely negatively somehow, I'm still putting that in a high tier, I think, because like at the end of the day, I just want games to be good. I just want the best games to be good. A question about randomness in arcade design. In Tetris, do you prefer pure random or the double bag? I haven't played Tetris seriously enough to have a really well-informed opinion about this. Like I've played it somewhat seriously, but I would say that my opinion is subject to change if I ever get around to playing 200 hours of the game of Tetris Grandmaster or whatever. But I think that the double bag is better. And I kind of talked about this with like Angel Game and like Post Void, and basically when you have randomness, you can actually have more. Okay, when your game is heavily randomized, you get more depth in a certain way. If you structure the game around this properly and all of that, you get more depth just because you're getting into different situations, right? And so that's of course, compared to static level design, it's going to give you more different scenarios where you can do different kinds of things, and it's going to shine a light on different corners of the possibility space of your game's mechanics and all of that stuff. So randomness brings out more depth just in that kind of way, but it it also can bring out more depth just in like how the randomness is implemented. And I think the double bag is a good example of this. Like you can, if you're a Tetris player, you can think about what pieces are coming up. You know, you can track the double bag, and you know, you can you can track the double bag system and understand what pieces are more and less likely to be coming up right now, and you can make different decisions based on some kind of like syncopause-esque. Like I associate this with syncopause because it's the game that does it most deeply that I've seen. Like you are accounting for multiple you're thinking about this branching universe. You're thinking about the future in terms of like branching possibilities where like, you know, it could be that this piece appears next and then this piece appears. And if that happens, then I would maybe want to place the current piece in this way. But if it's the other way around, if this piece appears and then this piece appears, then I want to place it in, I want to do something different. But maybe there's a third thing that I want to do that's like the optimal thing for not knowing which way it is, right? Because I don't know right now, it could be either way. I actually want to do a completely different thing. And you're thinking about all of this stuff. A good Tetris player thinks about all of this kind of stuff in a way, at least a little bit, at least sometimes, at least some modes of Tetris, right? So my suspicion is that I prefer the double bag system because it allows for that kind of thinking more, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I just have a low tolerance for repetition. Like I don't know. I have when I play a game or read a book or whatever, I really try not to. And I think I do a good job of this, of like not stressing out about my time, right? Like if you're constantly worried about like how you're spending your time, you just kind of can't enjoy anything, right? But that said, I am like aware, you know, I have experience playing a lot of games that have wasted my time, right? And sometimes you just get the vibe that a game is wasting your time in a way that in the past did not feel worth it at the end, right? I'm thinking back to all these, I'm naturally thinking back to all the experiences that I've had playing similar games before, and at the end of the day being like, yeah, that was fun, but like, was it worth 50 hours when I could like do so many other things with that 50 hours? Like, I don't know, probably not. And yeah, that's just something you have to think about when you're trying to use your time wisely. And yeah, like I do worry. That's one thing. I feel like that's part of what is keeping so many people trapped in this arcade bubble and not playing as much variety and not being as open-minded about games as I would like for them to be. It's the fact that these games don't get straight to the juice, right? They don't get straight to the good part. There's so much like repetition, you know. Doing the early stages over and over again past a certain point is just games with a lot of grinding and repetition in general, unless it's doing something really unique and interesting with that and it really serves a purpose. I'm not totally dismissing repetition in general as a game design, as a component of a game, but I do think that if you imagine the version of Dodonpachi, I like Dodonpachi, okay? I enjoyed it. But if you imagine the version of Dodonpachi that is more tightly designed, lets you spend much more time with the parts that you're actually like struggling with and need to engage actively with, and less time on the parts that you are just rote executing something that you already know how to do. I think in that universe where like all arcade games are much more like that, you might see people branching out more because like they're not, it doesn't take 80 hours to clear a game, right? It doesn't take 80 hours to get like a full clear of Final Fight or something like that, you know? It would condense the experiences in a way that would give people more time to do other things with their life. Totally there are more angles to this. Like I understand the scoring systems and stuff change perspective. And I understand also that some people like just that execution, just the pure execution. Like they don't want to do the intense dodging part and like figuring out the route and figuring out new things part all the time when they're playing a game. They like having a little bit of that, and then they go back to the beginning and there's a little bit of a rest period where you can just kind of mindlessly execute, and that's somehow a part of the appeal as well. To me, if I wanted something like that, it would have to, I would want it to go deeper on, like, I enjoy when games do that kind of thing where they're not just drilling super hard on one type of vibe all the time. Like there's a little bit of breaks. Like I really don't mean what you might be thinking of, like how AAA designers will talk about pacing or whatever, but like, you know, I've talked about this with Spy Party. Like it's an asymmetric multiplayer game where you're switching sides every round, and the two different sides feel somewhat different, even though they're both very deep and interesting and related to each other. You know, like I like stuff like that where it gives your brain a break from one type of thing temporarily. But I would want for the early game to be really deep, to go really deep on the execution. Like I don't actually really think early game shmup stuff, even when you push the like the scoring strats to the limit and stuff like that, in a way it's still not, first of all, it's harder to get to that level. You have to study a lot, you know, you have to study routes and spend a lot of time, like spend a lot of effort coming up with routes and everything for something like Dodonpachi, just to route like stage 1 perfectly for score. What was I trying to say? I don't know. I'm trying to say that, like, even if you get to that, it's still not as deep in a way on just like the pure execution element as like a rhythm game is, right? Like think about like you're playing Guitar Hero, like even main game Guitar Hero, like some of the songs are, I feel like, going deeper on like interesting execution challenge, pure timing, pure like press the buttons at the right time kind of thing. Like I think rhythm games, by giving you the full, by just being pure call and response, Simon Says, if you will, by just being pure Simon Says, rhythm games can go so much deeper on pure execution. So like, why would I want to play the early game of a shmup when I could play a rhythm game instead, right? And it gets so much deeper on the execution, and the execution is more interesting. Instead of just pressing left and right on the left, right, up, down on the keyboard or on the arcade stick or whatever it is, like you are, you know, playing a guitar, or you're like, you know, doing some kind of other weird input system in like an arcade rhythm game or whatever. Does that make sense? Yeah, I don't think there's an excuse for like this early game waiting room stuff in those kind of arcade games. And my Crypt of the Necrodancer head, I've played like 50 hours of it. It felt a little too painful. Again, that game kind of has a waiting room as well. Like even though it's super randomized, when you get into like Coda and stuff like that, which is kind of where I dropped off, like the first stage is you can sleepwalk through it kind of by that point, you know. The difficulty comes much later, and you can't even like, I don't even know if you can really like practice. Maybe you can grind practice, but yeah, I don't know. I dropped off the game around that point. It seemed autistic. But it is a cool game. It's a cool game. I don't know. I have my complaints about it. I make mixed feelings. I respect it. I respect it for how hard the Steam achievements are. There's like 10 people who have all the Steam achievements or something. Glad that it's a lot to chew on. Okay. Yeah, I can't get into most JRPGs as well. I would recommend the Saga series though. I've only played Saga 1 so far, but it was very dense compared to most JRPGs, and also kind of has a different emphasis than most JRPGs. More of a like communication type of emphasis, as I've talked about with like Sylvie games and puzzle design and stuff like that. But a very different angle because it's a JRPG. Okay. Let's get to the next let's get to the next thing. Okay, assist mode. these are all such complicated topics that I could talk about them all for like 2 hours. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to like Romancing Saga and stuff like that. Anyway, assist mode. Okay, so obviously the way that assist mode implies something like Celeste or something like Mina the Hollower now, where it's just a ton of options for you to like customize. You know, it's a bunch of options for you to make things easier in a whole bunch of different ways, and it's up to you to decide what the best way to do that is. Oh man, I really I don't know how to condense my thoughts into a reasonable amount of time for this. I really don't. Maybe I should make this a 2-part stream. Should I make this a 2-parter? Yeah, if it starts getting long, I'll just make it a 2-parter. I won't cut myself short. Okay. So yeah, stuff like Celeste and whatever. Okay. I want people to be able to appreciate games even when those games are like beyond their skill level. I'm on board with the concept in that way. And especially when a disability straightforwardly prevents a person from accessing what is interesting about the game. No complaints about that being an important like thing to try to address. However, there's also other things that stop people from accessing what is good about a game. And one of the really common ones that you see preventing people from enjoying a game that they otherwise could have enjoyed is when you have options that are really readily available and they can just go into those options and make the game as easy as they want for it to be whenever they want to. Because some people are not as patient as I would like for them to be. They don't, and maybe they don't understand what's interesting or what can be interesting about a challenge in a game as much as I would like for them to understand that. You know, they maybe are not on the same page with me about what is valuable in games yet, but I would like for those people to someday get on that same page. You know, I would like for people to someday develop that kind of patience to sit with a game that's challenging to them. And I would like for them to develop the ability to appreciate a challenge that they initially thought was impossible or whatever. And I think that assist modes, as they are usually presented, are an obstacle to that. They are a negative influence in this way. They are, you know, when someone hits a roadblock in a game, they are much more likely to open up the assist mode. At least certain types of people are very likely to open up the assist mode and change things and probably way overcorrect to the point where they can get through the level without appreciating what's interesting about the level. And then they just breeze through the rest of the game like that. Maybe they switch it back, but then they're always ready to switch the assist mode back on at all times, and that kind of poisons their experience with the game to some degree. I really don't like that about it. I like Sylvie's solution recently, where we talked about this on stream several weeks ago, where she made a game with something called a debug mode, I think, or something like that. And, you know, it's not even an option within the game. It's like described outside of the game on the itch.io page. And it's like, you know, it describes how to access the debug mode. And it's all like hidden under a drop down. Like you have to specifically click debug mode on the itch.io page to even get into that. And then like it gives you options within that for like how to skip around to different points, different parts of the game. I feel like that's a reasonable compromise to like let people see more of the game in case they really just can't play it, right? They can't appreciate it in the normal way by just playing it and getting through it. that at least allows people to see more of the structure of the game, appreciate the construction, appreciate like how the game has been architected in a certain way, without actually appreciating, without giving them the impression that they have gotten the experience of playing the game. Because I think what I don't like about assist mode is that it gives people the sense that they have experienced the game, right? Even when, in many cases, at least, you can at least imagine turning on a lot of those options to the point where you just didn't experience the game. You just really didn't. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm sympathetic to the people who really like assist modes, but I am more. I am I'm married to the idea that we need to get more people to learn how to overcome this type of stuff, and to come back to games later, and to be a little bit more patient, and to have a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset, right? Like, what I was starting to say earlier, and I never finished the thought, is, some of those people who would be enabling assist mode and kind of just breezing through the game after getting stuck, if that wasn't there, that would give them the opportunity to take a break. And then if the game is compelling enough, it should be kind of weighing on their mind after, while they're taking a break. And hopefully if the game is compelling enough, they'll want to come back and try again. Maybe they'll be thinking about that level that they were trying and getting stuck on and got frustrated on. And maybe they'll have a realization while they were away from the game that will be like, oh, maybe I can just do this other way. And then they'll come back and think about it. Like, that kind of stuff just naturally happens. That's just how our brains work. And that kind of experience can really open someone's mind to the entire space that you need to get into, the entire the kind of headspace that you need to get into to appreciate the kind of games that I think are most interesting. So yeah, I want to leave room for those kind of experiences. So I think assist mode, I'm probably going to put D tier. I don't know, maybe C tier. It's like, I think that it's a step towards things that can be interesting, like the Sylvie debug mode thing. Like, because that Sylvie debug mode thing is not really framed as an assist in the same way, I think it's fine. And I think it's like a good compromise, because it doesn't like I said, it doesn't make you feel like you played the game. So I think I think the assist mode as a trend is maybe positive, because it leads to stuff like that. But yeah, it by itself, I think is negative. I don't think it's that negative though. So maybe I should put it C. I don't know. I'll keep it D. Practice mode, I feel like, is a different thing. I am the take a break and think about it meme. Although, yeah, like I was just saying, I also like it when a game kind of leaves room for breaks within the game. Like, yeah, like Spy Party, like I was just saying. Okay, boomer shooters. Is this even like a coherent trend anymore? Like, I feel like boomer shooters were a kind of coherent trend back when like Dusk and a Medieval and stuff came out, but now like people call things boomer shooters. Like, people call Ultra Kill a boomer shooter, people call Post Void a boomer shooter. Like, these are not the same. Like, there's almost nothing shared in terms of game design. Like, that's an exaggeration, but like the core appeal of those games is just completely different from like Doom and from each other. Like, I think people were calling like Cruelty Squad a boomer shooter. Why is boomer shooter in the same list as assist mode? Yeah, look, at least he was he was willing to take the initiative to make these different things at all. I just copied. I was too lazy. I just copied it from him. So you can't hate too much when you're, beggars can't be choosers, etc. Okay, boomer shooters though. It's okay. I'm just trying to think about boomer shooters overall. Like, people call Devil Daggers and Hyper Demon boomer shooters, I feel like, or at least Devil Daggers. It's just a different thing. Like, to me, boomer shooters is like you're going through statically designed hallways and you know, you turn a corner and there's some enemies, and then maybe there's a larger room with some enemies, like, you know, Quake and Doom and stuff. It's just nothing like Devil Daggers, Hyper Demon, Post Void, Ultra Kill, Cruelty Squad. Uh, so yeah, if there's a trend around boomer shooters in the classical sense that I am not aware of, then I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna rate boomer shooters as like the whole broad cat. Actually, no, I'm gonna rate it as like the idea of boomer shooters in 2026, which is stupid. as I just said, it's a surface level description. It doesn't, as I just said, it doesn't really mean anything. We need different terms for these different types of games. We need to talk about these games individually to make any kind of sense in terms of like what is the core thing that's interesting about them. I don't think the term boomer shooter has meaning that is useful in 2026, so I'm putting in an F tier. This is a good shape of the this is a good curve so far. Cozy games, I feel like would go harmless if I was using Ziad's categories. I just don't. I mean, like, actually, you know what? I think it might be positive. I think it might be S tier. Okay, hear me out. Wait, is Nina in the chat? Do I not have the Twitch? No, I do. Am I just missing tons of chat messages? I don't see Nina in the chat, and I didn't see Samp earlier when you mentioned him. Okay, hear me out. Hear me out. Cozy games are... There is a large, undeniably and unavoidably, there is a large segment of the video games market that wants cozy games, okay? Before the idea of cozy games existed, they had to find their bits of coziness. They had to find as much cozy vibe as possible in the same games that we're playing, right? They had to play what we would think of as non-cozy games, and they would influence the design of those games because they are in that audience. They would influence the design of those games to be more what they want, to be more cozy, to be more mindless, relaxing, whatever, which is opposed to what I want in game design, and probably what most of us here want in game design. We want sicko shit, and we want weird stuff, and we want to have to use our brains. Now that cozy games exist as a category, I think that like moves that audience into its own sphere where it's not like touching us, right? At least not as much. Like, of course, they're still going to be playing like the big budget, like they're still going to be playing the Resident Evils and stuff like that have some amount of like cozy appeal. But I think it's at least to some degree, it's bringing those people, it's bringing those people away. It's yeah, if I post this on Twitter, they will kill me. But am I wrong though? Like, as a trend, this is not me saying that I like cozy games and I'm jazzed to play cozy games all the time. In fact, I never play them. But like shouldn't they exist if there's a market for them? Like, isn't it better that they exist and that they're a clearly defined different category that exists in its own world that is that is messing up our thing as little as possible? I think as a trend, it's obviously positive. I can't think of anything negative about it as a trend, honestly. I don't feel like it is bothering me in any way. I mean, I guess if I'm trying to think of a way that it's bothering me, there was that Davey Reedon game, Wanderstop, that at least looked a little bit interesting. It looked like it was kind of taking the cozy game thing and like setup and doing something different with it. But in the end, like I heard enough negative stuff about it and not enough positive stuff about it that I didn't really wanna try it. The cozy game genre is actually an environmentally significant apex predator that renders extinct, meaningless systems from games we otherwise like. Wonder Stop is incredible. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't. I think Davey Wreden's games are interesting, but not interesting enough that I have felt like they were super worth playing. I don't know. I always have mixed feelings about them, but maybe it's worth playing those kind of games. Is Monsters Expedition a cozy game? I'm thinking of. I think no. I think clearly no. Like, you know, if the gameplay is not also cozy, it's not a cozy game. And like people who play cozy games are not, you know, maybe it's trying to appeal to them as much as possible without sacrificing the core of what it is. But the core of what it is clearly not cozy. Have you got those snowman, man? Have you done those snowman puzzles, bro? That is not cozy. That is capital F fucked. How cozy is Cult of the Lamb? I don't know. I haven't played it. Didn't look that interesting. Okay, the lore museum exhibit text in Monster Expedition is pretty cozy bad. Yeah, but if you imagine what the game would be without that, right? Like that seems like, again, that just seems like a not core to the game type of thing, right? Like they're trying to make concessions to the people who want to read a little bit of text every once in a while when they're playing a game. They need that little bit of a break. They need the cozy vibes. And then they're hoping that those people will, you know, get into a more serious puzzle game if that other stuff is all in place. And did that succeed as a design direction? I'm not sure. Probably not. But you can see what they were going for, and it didn't really hurt the core of the game, obviously, because it's like up there with my favorite games of all time. Yo, what up, Rimbot guy? Wall run slop. Yo. Unaccessible 2 with wall running? When? Yeah. We're sticking with cozy games S tier, I think. Yeah, wall wheeling, whatever. Wait, this actually might be a sick idea. This actually might be crazy. Okay, extraction shooters. So I don't know why I've picked this up and scrolled up to the tier list. I'm not ready to place this yet because I have no idea where to place this. It's complicated because extraction shooters, the concept feels kind of okay. Here's my background as extraction shooters to just to give you where I'm coming from, because I could be wrong. It could be that if I played more of them I would feel differently, but my impression based on what I have played, I've played a few hours of Tarkov, and by the time that I got around to trying it, like the waiting times, the queue times were like so bad, or whenever I tried it, the queue times were so bad, it was not tolerable. So I didn't really get into it. I played several hours of Arc Raiders, and I played like the test thing of Marathon for like a couple hours. Is there another big one? I think those are like the biggest ones, right? Oh yeah, Hunt Showdown. Yeah, I've actually been trying to get into Hunt Showdown recently. I like that. From what I've seen, I don't fully understand the systems in the game yet, but from what I've seen, Hunt Showdown is my favorite of the bunch in terms of how it does the like meta progression thing. Okay, so like if you just hear extraction shooters, right? If you just hear those words, you might think that it's all about the extraction aspect, right? That it's more about like the defining features of the genre are all about extraction, like the risk and reward of like, you know, having to, or just like the structure of a match of like having to do something specific to get out of the match and like choose when you exit, right? That stuff is cool, but that to me is not really the main thing that I think about when I think about extraction shooters. What I think about is the item shit. The item, like the inventory management. Like you are looking at a screen, a massive complicated inventory screen, and like dragging items around and like selling stuff and whatever. And it's got this like MMO type appeal where you're slowly getting better over the course of many, many rounds. You're like slowly getting better and better loot and like almost leveling up your character. And yeah, so some games are like this a lot more than others. Like Arc Raiders, I feel like leans into that angle the hardest from the ones that I've played. Maybe Marathon more. I didn't play enough of that. Yeah, it's like Arc Raiders just doesn't. I guess there's still some tension though. There is still some tension of like, you know, the risk of losing certain items and not making as much progress as quickly. But anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this. It feels like a mess to try to critique this because they all feel so different. What I was saying about Hunt Showdown is like the item stuff feels more minimal. It's not even like items, right? Like you don't have inventory management between rounds. You have like perks that you get, and then you have like characters who can like get equipment and carry them into future rounds, but your characters can also die and then you lose them and you have to pick a different character. I don't know. I like, it feels like that is like the amount of stuff, the amount of meta progression that makes sense to support the extraction concept and to have that basic risk reward structure in place. Whereas some of them feel way too much to me like they're trying to hook you in an MMO kind of progress, meta progression, shallow dopamine way that I don't really like, and that tends to make it really complicated. Like it just tends to make it tends to create this steep learning curve, right? Where there's all these different items and you have to understand the importance in the overall game of all of these different things and when you should sell things and when you should keep things and what you should put into this backpack and what you should carry in your side pouch and all that. I mean, that kind of stuff is like in Tarkov is the extreme example of that kind of thing. There is an interesting aspect to that, I'm sure, once you get deeper into Tarkov, but yeah, I mean, you just spend a lot of time dragging stuff around on an inventory screen, and that's just not my jam. So I think overall, yeah, I mean, we can't just rate this as the extraction concept, right? Because extraction as a concept existed before extraction shooters, or at least like, you know, there are games that do very similar stuff before extraction shooters came along. Overall, though, I don't know. It's interesting. I think it's maybe B. It is a new structure that like the popularization of this structure of like the extraction, the round based extraction thing, like the popularization of that structure, I think is a good thing. I don't think it's going to last. Like, I think it's kind of dying off. The trend is kind of dying off already. I don't think it's like battle royales where like somehow this is going to create a like $1 billion game or two. But yeah, I think its influence will end up being positive. Just yeah, as a different option for how to structure your game, and I don't know. There's probably more interesting stuff in there that I haven't seen because I haven't played any one of them deeply enough to really know. I don't know. This is kind of a guess. This feels like kind of a guess, but I'm gonna put B tier. Goop shooter. Okay. Friendslop. I mean, same. This is actually even better than cozy games, right? Because cozy games I have no interest in. Friendslop is the same thing. It's kind of the same thing as cozy games, right? In that, you know, previously, the people who really wanted to play a game with their friends, what are they playing? Think about what those people were playing before. They're probably like playing MMOs, you know? They're playing MMOs kind of shallowly, or they're like playing battle royales in a way that's like so mindless and like not engaging with what's interesting about that game. They're just kind of like fodder they're target practice, right? When me and my my squad roll up in the lobby, and everyone else everyone else in the match is just like, trying to hang out with their friends and goof around, like they're just target practice for us. And and more importantly, like, those people, you actually don't want those people playing your game. I mean, if you really need that many sales, if you really need them to generate revenue, that's one tricky angle, obviously. But in terms of like the game design, like how they influence the game design and the development of the game, like, you see like Apex Legends had a really tight, like, hardcore player base that really got what was special about that game. But then it had this giant player base of increasingly, as you get more casual and more like just playing the game to hang out with my friends type of thing, like, you get more and more into these people who like just want a comfy way to like hang out with their friends. And there's just no good multiplayer games. There's just no good games that are like designed for multiplayer, like for like comfy co-op multiplayer or whatever. And so you've got these people hopping into stuff like Apex Legends, but then they get into Apex Legends, they get excited about it, and then they influence the developers by complaining that like controller is not, they're getting killed by mouse and keyboard players and they're on controller. And then the developers are so overwhelmed with these complaints that they feel like they have to, give controller players this insane advantage. Like, I think Friendslop is genuinely the introduction of a genre that actually is built around like cool, comfy, unique co-op experiences. No matter how shallow they are, this concept pulls people away from games that they are not really in the target audience of. It is filling a need, and it leaves room, in the same way as cozy games, it is leaving room for other games to be more targeted at the audience that will actually deeply appreciate them the most. Okay. And I understand that this is going to ruffle some feathers, but I think this is true. I think it's a super positive thing. And also, like, Peak is here. I think Peak is just a good game. Like, it's, probably, it's one of the better games I played last year for sure. It would definitely be in my top 15 or so, if not my top 10. Yeah, good game. And yeah, I haven't played much other Friendslop. I guess Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes is like an early instance of what you could call Friendslop, and I think that game's really good, actually. I think that game's like underrated. Yeah. So I think I'm happy with this. I can't imagine Friendslop really being a negative influence. Again, there's a big difference here between the best examples of the thing and the average example of the thing. Like, when you go on Twitter, you constantly see some stupid idea that's like probably not going to lead to very deep gameplay. You see some stupid Friendslop trailer, and people are complaining like, "Oh God, another one. This shit again." Like, and I understand that. Like, I understand that, but like, you have to just figure out how to find the games that are actually good. You have to figure out how to how to pay attention to the good games and not the bad games. Filter out the slop, because there's always going to be slop in the world. There's always going to be mediocre, uninteresting games, and oftentimes they're going to be popular. And that, like, Friendslop as a trend is not really changing that. It's changing what it looks like. It's changing what the popular games often look like, but it's not changing the fact that there's a bunch of normie slop out there that is not appealing to me. It doesn't matter though, because I just pay attention to the games that are appealing to me. So yeah, I think in a similar way, these two are positive, and this is even more positive because some of it I actually like. I've always wanted more interesting co-op games. I love Resident Evil 5 Mercenaries mode because it has 2-player co-op and is actually a difficult, deep action game. Like, that game gets a big boost for me for just having co-op. Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of why I like liked World of Warcraft raids back in the day. There is just interesting gameplay that comes from coordination with a group, and yeah, like Peak is a great example of like designing around the weird, interesting stuff that can only happen with like co-op multiplayer. Yeah. So it very directly helps me, or makes me happier that there are better examples of co-op now. I think this is a good place to stop. I think we will cut this into 2 streams. We can just chat for a bit, but I'm trying to get back to first of all, last week when I went like 4 hours or whatever, I was so exhausted by the end. And I don't want to do that again right now. And I don't want to rush myself through this. And I also want to be lazy again next week and not come up with another stream concept. So yeah, we'll do part 2 and finish this next week, next Saturday, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern. Let's see. Have I played any Haze Light games like Split Fiction or It Takes Two? Yes and no. I've played the older Haze Light games, or is it Haze Light? Was it Haze Light back then? I've played Brothers. No, I guess Brothers was Joseph Fares before, right? Is that right? So Brothers was 2013. So yeah, I played this and I've played A Way Out. That one I guess is Haze Light. Don't have much positive to say about them, to be honest with you. But I get the sense that these ones are better, maybe. I'd be somewhat interested in. Misa asked if there are a couple games. Yes, It Takes Two. There's at least one. You gave Post Void a try after my last stream. You've been hooked since, currently trying to get in the 100K range. Hell yeah, love to hear that. Yeah, if you're in the Discord, feel free to like post your scores and stuff. I wish people would compete and try to bop each other and stuff. I have a on the Discord, I have a Syncopause channel, like mostly for posting scores. And in the pinned messages in that channel is a leaderboard that I keep updated. So whenever you post your Syncopause PB, anyone who posts their Syncopause PB, I update the leaderboard, and I may or may not give you a special role, which may or may not do special things. But in general, yeah, I'll try to think about how to encourage that more. Maybe I just need a different channel for like score posting or something, but I don't know. But yeah, I really love Post Void. The scoring, the scores, like score chasing in that game is super underappreciated. I wrote a big blog post about that I recommend reading. When's poetry reading? I don't know. Haven't been reading much poetry recently, sadly. It's hard to find the time. Too many good games to play. Guys, this has been an insane year for games. This has been an insane year for games for me. I don't know how much this generalizes. I know that most people think that every modern game is slop, so I struggle to I struggle to imagine whether other people are able to appreciate these games or whatever. But you know, like I spent a lot of time playing Caramel Action, going for the 2-all this year. I've spent a lot of time playing this game, this insane unhinged puzzle game, just like one of the craziest sets of mechanics that you can ever possibly imagine. Like it starts out with the concept of you're like cloning yourself, and then you have to control both at the same time, but they like do different things sometimes when you move certain ways, and then it only gets more unhinged from there with like, you know, you created a paradox and split the universe into multiple timelines, and then like different things happen in different timelines, and then you're a ghost, and then you're a whatever, and then like there's quantum entanglement, and then there's like parallel. You're traveling between parallel. Like it's just, it's just the craziest puzzle game ever in a certain way, and it's outrageously hard in a way that I love. Man, there's some crazy spoilers in this trailer. If you, I mean, you're never gonna remember the stuff that you just saw, so it's not really a spoiler. But like, I don't want to see more because it might show like a puzzle that I am actually on right now. But yeah, and I've been enjoying that game a lot, and it's also like huge. Derelict Star, of course, massive, super interesting platformer. Wait, I just realized I never got back to meter slop when I was talking about all the different slops. Is Derelict Star meter slop? The freaking meters on the screen made me think of it. We'll get into that next week, I guess. We'll get into whether Derelict Star is meter slop, so tune in for that. But yeah, Derelict Star, really, really interesting, unique platformer, like exploration kind of platformer. And then Laney Game, also a surprisingly large and intricate exploration platformer. Just absolutely loved this game as well. And then now I'm playing Emurom, which I talked about at the beginning of the stream. This might be my favorite of the year. Like it's incredible. It's just incredible how deep this game goes and how many like layers of surprises and unique, interesting secrets and mechanics there are in this thing. It's wild. And all of this is without 868 back, by the way. Like, this is the new Michael Bro game. Michael Bro is probably my favorite game designer of all time. So this is basically the follow-up to Syncopause, right? I mean, it's the follow-up to 868 Hack, more directly, but it's the next in his series of, minimalist roguelikes after Syncopause, which is my favorite game of all time. But I might not get around to this game for a while because it's like, it's such a big thing to get into. Like, this is going to be a game that I want to play for hundreds of hours. And I can't even imagine like playing a game for hundreds of hours right now. like I just have so much else to play and do. It's just, this year has been completely overwhelming with quality and quantity of games for me. And this is without, like, I haven't even tried Mugenics. Like Mugenics is probably a pretty interesting game. Like, I don't think it's going to be my favorite game of the year, but it's probably pretty interesting. And that's also a massive game apparently. And like, Mina the Hollower just came out. I've played a couple hours of it maybe, and it's, it's sort of interesting so far. I'm going to stick with it a little bit more. But yeah, like this is what do you even do? What do you even do with this amount of games? I guess you just got to save them up. Like I'm going to save 868 back for 2027 maybe, and hope that there's not as many interesting games in 2027. I don't know. There's like more. There's more stuff that I haven't tried, I'm sure. But yeah. Yeah, yes. Order of the Sinking Star, a freaking 500-hour puzzle game from Jonathan Blow. Like, there's no way that I'm not going to want to play that entire thing. There's no way I'm not going to want to devour that whenever it comes out. I don't know if it's actually coming out this year, though. I would like to express some skepticism about that. But yeah, if it does, yeah, we're cooked. I'm going to lose my mind at 868. I muted the channels in the Bro Discord and in the Secret Lives of Games Discord because I just can't think about it. I don't want to see anything about it. I want to have the experience myself, like I did with Syncopause. For Syncopause, I don't necessarily recommend this to everyone, but I played the game like pretty much in a vacuum, just like with one other person who was kind of getting into it at the same time as me. We would talk a little bit, but I didn't like interact with the community or read the Viva Fringe blog posts, guides, or anything like that for like at least 100 hours or something of gameplay. I got like a 2500 after I told myself that when I got a 2500 Ponto PB, I would join the Discord, and then I did. And I learned a lot when I joined the Discord, and I very quickly got up into the 4K and 5K after that. But yeah, I really enjoyed figuring things out slowly for myself as well. Emurom was made in TIC 80. You should use TIC 82 for a stream and just mess about with code. I'm not really a coder guy. Not really a code bro. Derelict Star recently got an update where you can turn up the game speed to 200%. I don't, I mean, I guess if you're speed running, then you want to like switch it around. I don't know. You want to switch it around when you're just like running around between areas, and then switch it down when you're, I don't know. I don't think that's something that really interests me. I enjoyed the 100% speed of Derelict Star. You'd think that since It Takes Two is so popular, there would be more couple slop games. I'm sure there are. There's that Lovers, well, this is a long time ago, but Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time, yeah. This kind of feels like a couple slop game, but it's also 1 to 4 players, so I guess it's for like polycules. It's like a polycule slop game. Kind of interesting game. Yeah, Portland couple slop. Probably plays closer to the Super Mario World clone that it originated from. I mean, I just wonder like how precise things are getting at that point, and like, does the game code work correctly so that you can? I guess it would work correctly. It would just make everything twice as precise, but still work. That's already a genre. It's called board games. Yeah, that's actually super true. Yeah, I've been thinking about getting into board games. Again, I have so much to do that is not that, but been thinking about getting into board games. But there is something about the, I don't know if it's a culture fit for me. I think I'm a little bit too like normal guy coded. I think I'm like normal guy passing or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll give it a try. Maybe the people are cool. Okay. I don't know. I'm showing so much of this game. It's kind of like, is it kind of like FTL? I don't know what it's like. How do I actually, this might be like a problem in my life. Like, how do I signal that I'm not normal? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I need to be putting out a different aura somehow. You open your mouth. I guess that's why I've learned not to do that in public. Okay. That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, Misa knows from experience being in public with me. All right. Anything else interesting that we're talking about that we need to talk about before I get back to Djinn Emurom gaming? Hair dye is the tech. I don't know. The problem is when you start getting, I feel like when you present as a normal guy, then that makes people think, oh, this guy could be anything. Like, I mean, they probably make some assumptions that you're like probably pretty normal and boring, but at least like in the back of their mind, there's probably like a little bit of like, I don't know, like he could be into like, you know, underwater basket weaving or whatever. Like he could be into whatever. But like I feel like when you get into specific not normal things, like if I dyed my hair purple, like that would kind of narrow the space of what people think that I could be, you know? It would make them think that I'm into specific things that I'm actually not into. Maybe, I don't know. How do you how do you? This is now a stream about how do you exist in the world. How to be perceived. Get absolutely jacked. I'm doing my best actually. Not sure if not sure if absolutely jacked is ever really going to be on the table, but you got to bring up the whole computer games thing early. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my whole life is organized around video games in a way that's very like uncomfortable for people. And they just have so many bad assumptions when you say like, my when you say literally, or when you say enough that they understand that this is what's going on, that your life is basically organized around video games. Like, they just get the wrong impression immediately in a way that's like impossible to fix. Kind of guy who has an opinion on Radiohead. Well, that's accurate. That's accurate. It's not a very interesting opinion, probably, but normal people scare me t-shirts. Yeah. They don't though. Like, they just don't. So this is the orientation toward the truth that's holding me back. Right? If I didn't care about lying, I would wear a shirt that says normal people scare me. Eat, sleep, game, repeat t-shirt, yeah. I feel like I was saying something else. But yeah, like I have recently been trying to hone my answer to what do you do, right? What do you do? Or similar questions obviously come up a lot in life. And I paused my game to be here. Obviously come up a lot in life. And I have been honing my answer to that to try to thread that impossible line of like being honest, getting people to understand what it is that's going on, but trying to prevent all of the pitfalls of like all of the different wrong assumptions about what type of games they think I'm playing, honestly, how much time they think I'm spending playing games. Like I especially recently, I don't spend as much time playing games as I wish I did. And also just like the things that I care about in games, the way that I think about games, like it's just not something that people have a concept of. So it's really hard to briefly talk about it and get people on board. Yeah. Misa loves wearing my most autistic shirts. Like the sports, it just says sports and then it has a controller. It's like something that someone gave me when I was like in middle school or something, and I've just never really worn it. Yeah. There's a couple other ones. I won't get too deep into that cringe. It's pretty cringe, honestly, but it's also funny when Misa does it. But maybe I'm biased. All right, I'm gonna call it there. I'm gonna go play some EmuROM. You guys should also go play some good games. I strongly recommend playing good games. I just mentioned a bunch of them. Yeah, join the Discord if you want to hang out. And yeah, come back next week for part 2. Come back next week for part 2 of this. This has turned out to be quite an ordeal. All right, catch you guys later. Bye-bye.